Hey, President Trump expecting to unload on 2020 Democrats tonight in Ohio. You're looking live in Cincinnati, where I'm splitting the screen with that live event, where in just over an hour from now, the president will hold a Keep America Great rally before leaving the White House. Trump hitting the candidates, by the way, about 2 hours ago in a possible preview of his speech.
I mean, I've watched Elizabeth Warren, sometimes referred to as Pocahontas, with her phony try at an ancestry that she didn't have. It's possible I'll have to run against her, but everything she did was a fraud. I think that Kamala did not do well last night. I think Biden did okay. He came through. He came limping through, as I say about Sleepy Joe. He limped right through it. It's really boiling down to 4 or 5 of them.
So what role will the two-night debate extravaganza have in tonight's speech, Dana Perino? What do you think? How will it be different from 2 weeks ago?
Well, I think that the president will play his greatest hits, but not initially. Or maybe at some point he's going to go through and he'll probably go down the line of the candidates. He might not be able to mention all 20 of them, but he'll hit the top ones. I think it's really smart timing. The campaign to schedule this rally on the night after the debate. So it's like, okay, you got 2 nights of 3 hours each of those Democrats, and now the president's going to come in because this is a contrast election, right? It's a choice between President Trump and whoever from that stage or elsewhere emerges as the nominee. The other thing is, just look at the contrast. The Democrats are in Michigan. They have this opportunity to talk to voters in Michigan, a state that they lost by an inch and that they desperately need to win back in 2020. And they are out-liberaling each other all the way. Now, President Trump, by contrast, he's going to Ohio. No Republicans ever won an election without Ohio. He won by 9 points. He's leaving nothing to chance. He's going to go to Ohio. I bet he brings up Vice President Biden's comments last night towards the end, kind of a throwaway comment that he was going to get rid of fossil fuels. Bring that up in Ohio. See how that goes.
It wasn't just him that brought that up. I think everyone agreed within 10 years we're going to get rid of all fossil fuels, especially in a place that I believe is run by the car industry. It's kind of interesting. I think the president's got to be a little at a loss because he had 9 people killing Barack Obama. That's what he was doing. So now does he even bother talking about Obamacare being bad? Because everyone agrees it's bad now, right?
Are you asking me a question?
In a way.
Okay. I think I have.
You know what he was doing? He was embedding his opinion.
But this is the 5. We are not running a debate. We're not. I think. I have some advice. I think that they should initiate some chants.
Yeah, send her back.
I think you're going to see 2 worlds, like you've said, okay? On one hand, you're going to have prosperity, peace, and jobs. And on the other hand, you're going to have the feral apocalypse. That's the way the media will present it. And you will be able to see how obvious a delusion that is. Right now, as Juan has shown, the media is suffering from ORD, obsessive race disorder. Everywhere they look, it's race, race, race. So if he criticizes anybody of color, oh, it's over. It's over.
Yeah. Right, and that's what Don Jr. was saying today. Medicare for all, decriminalize the border, those things will come up, and it's not even an exaggeration. That's what we heard for the last 2 nights, Juan, right?
You know, I mean, to me, I think that what Dana said is on target. This is just smart to get the president out right after the Democrats have dominated the airwaves for 2 nights, right? And try to get his message out. But, you know, I think he's got to be real careful. You saw what happened at the last rally with that send her back and all that, and it didn't help him. Didn't help him with Republicans, even. And then tonight, I mean, he's not going to talk about North Korea firing missiles again. He's not going to talk about failing trade talks with China and increasing tariffs.
He might bring up China, I think.
I don't think he's going to get angry at Jerome Powell, the Fed Reserve Chairman, and say,
oh,
what are we going to do? Oh, you know, so, and he can't talk.
I think he's going to do all those things.
He's
I don't think you know Trump.
Oh, so he's going to talk about all his failures and his problems? I just don't think so, folks. I think it's more likely he tries to go after Biden, Pocahontas, you know. I just
doing it all. It's got an hour and a half.
Those are 2 white people, Juan. You just disproved your point.
There you go.
Go ahead, Emily.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that the people attending tonight's rally, you know, they're from Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. So 100% he's going to lean into Biden and everyone else's comments about, you know, phasing out coal and fracking, et cetera. And his re-elect team ran with that hard last night, right? We saw that on Twitter. They immediately pounced on that. And I also think that we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but the Democratic Party is 100% alienating a lot of those voters who have been powering our country for decades. And they are making them seem like they are part of the problem. And so Trump will likely pounce on that, too.
The thing is, he's got to play a perfect game, Dana, because one chant dominated a 90-minute speech. So he's got to do things maybe that are out of his control. Question, if he hears send them back or some type of chant, if you're Trump, do you not step back? Do you step forward and go, we don't want to hear that? Do you Trump just say, I can't control my crowd?
I don't know. You're asking, what would I do?
No. What do you think he would do?
I don't know. We'll have to see. I really don't know.
Well, he improved remember, because for lock her up, he laughed and kind of egged it on. Then the second time, with send her back, he was like, okay, no. And so now after that backlash,
no, but then he defended the people so I don't know. I I think we'll have to see.
It's very exciting.
But it could be that no one chants.
Right, what a perfect
Then we'll never know.
They shouldn't leave it to chance.
Or chance, CE.
You know what I think? A lot of socialists could show up for the rally.
Absolutely. We'll see how that goes. There'll be some interruptions.